All right, welcome to the Fantasy Trail. This is Matt along with JT.
We're back.
Yeah, we're welcome back, JT. We took a week off last week. Veterans Day break, I
Yeah,
guess.
it was.
But this is week 11 of the Fantasy Trail, and we're really getting into the playoff picture.
I was surprised, Molly. I always forget, I guess, a little bit, but I was looking at it, and 2 weeks until the playoffs. I was like, whoa, that just snuck up on me.
Yeah, I honestly could use a couple more weeks just because my team needs a couple more wins.
Mine needs to be taken out behind the shed and put down. So I'm ready for the season to be over.
Yeah, there's a couple other teams. You with currently the high losing streak of 4 games in a row, five games.
Thank you.
Followed,
I'd like full credit, please.
followed closely by Joel with 4, which is shocking.
No, it's a tough household.
Just destroying people left and right.
It's a tough household. I'll be honest. The Everett's aren't feeling great about their many things with fantasy.
All right. So let's go back and look at the Week 11 recap real quick.
Yeah, so I think for any listener out there, we're going to switch it up a tiny bit. And the way we're going to attack this is more so playoff geared, where we can look at not only the team's result from last week, but how it impacted the playoffs and then what that team has going forward. Does that make sense, Tamal?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
so
let's go with the one of the highest scoring games of the week last week, and that was Brian beating Joel 150 to 137. Brian again puts up the high score for the league.
Yeah, real tough break for Joelle there. You mentioned her losing streak, but in her defense, that would have beat almost everybody else, other than, of course, the top 2 teams in the league, and oddly enough, Scarano. But most weeks you score a 137, you're feeling like you got this.
Yeah. I say her flex let her down. 2/3 of her flex let her down. And she doesn't have much on her bench.
No, and she never has. It's always been a weak point for her. She did make an interesting play with the Rudolph move. That was huge for her. He's been 2 weeks in a row really, really big with Evan Ingram going out. So she has played the wire interestingly. Allen Robinson was a disaster, but she's still sitting in the playoffs. I think that's what's the most interesting. Brian really locked up his spot, and that was a real big win for him to keep pace with Angela. But for her, she's not getting in with points, so she needs a win to stop the bleeding, and that's a tough one to not be able to take one with a 137.
Yeah. But I feel confident that both these teams firmly in their playoff position.
See, I disagree. Joelle is not. I think Brian is. But Joelle is currently tied with Michael Thomas.
Brian could not make the playoffs.
No, I think Brian's in.
Yeah.
I think he's in. Right. I'm saying it's Joelle.
Yeah.
I mean, she's tied with Michael Thomas, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are 1 game back of her. And I think that could flip-flop really easily, especially if she drops another L. She's not getting in with points. She's 8th in the league. So that's not happening. She's down by too much, I believe.
Okay.
It's not impossible, but I don't know. So that was an interesting one. She really needed that win.
All right. Angela gets back on the winning streak with a 148 against Rich's 98.
Turns out it wouldn't have mattered really who she played other than Brian. That's a huge week.
And that's with a 0 in a flex spot.
Yeah, a 0 in a flex spot, and I'm just not sure why she's still playing that person. He's had 1 good week, maybe 2 if you want to get generous, and just never done well again.
Well, to be honest, who she has on her bench, Hilton was injured. Robbie Anderson's been terrible. McCoy was benched the week before.
Yeah.
Benched.
Not benched. He was just a rest day, right?
Yeah, that's what Reed called it. We'll see what it actually is.
Well, he came back and played, especially when Williams got hurt, but then they both got hurt. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I get your point, but I don't know. She's got a lot of guys coming back. She's got Hooper and Hilton to bring in this week.
Is Hooper back?
I heard he was questionable. I heard him and Freeman were both questionable. I guess I don't know for sure as to whether or not he's back.
Let's see.
While you're looking at that, I will say she did put in Hilton. He is playing for her this week. She's got him and Hyde, so tonight's a big night for her.
Yeah. And then Rich.
Not much to say about that one.
No, I mean Brady's 8.5 is disappointing. Peterson is 5. Geisen helped, stole the touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look at his bench. He had 2 of his best receivers hurt. He's got his tight end out. I don't know. Rich has had a real rough year. He interestingly enough, I think he did have a high point week, if I remember correctly. But he's been sitting at the bottom of the standings for a while. Last in wins, last in points. That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
He also, oddly enough, happens to have the most points against. So he's caught it from both ends. That sucks, but he's in it. To his credit, he's, making comments in the chat. He's still making moves. He's still playing the wire. And I do appreciate that because, I know we put those little thresholds in there to try and keep people playing, but you never know if they will. It is disheartening. I can say that as a fellow basement person.
I thought he wasn't in the chat. He made that?
Yeah, he made a comment about pizza the other day.
Okay.
Saying he was going to order with anchovies.
I did get that. I did get that.
Yeah. So.
All right.
So yeah, tough one for him. All right, on we go.
We're gonna skip my next game, but let's go to another. No, we'll go with it. And that is you losing to Scarano. You put up a great score of a 129. Would it be your top 4?
Yeah, top 6 maybe. I was worse than I thought when I just looked it over.
And then losing to Scarano. So is that a school lunch or beat?
We did not make any kind of bet because both of us are so discouraged with our teams. To be absolutely honest, I will say that it was almost like I've heard of the old loser goes home battle, and we were both sitting at the same record with 4 and 6, and 5 and 6 has a chance. I think 4 and 7 for me makes me out. Mike maybe could sneak in with points if he doesn't get it, but he'd need a few more weeks like what he just had. But that was a big one for him. He's not dead. I think he's got a chance. He's been playing a little better. I don't know. What do you see?
Yeah, he absolutely has been.
He's won 3 in a row.
And he's putting up good scores.
Yes. He's the closest to Casey. If anybody's going to knock him down, it seems like that's possible. And he might not need to. I mean, he's only 1 game back of Joel. And he could surpass Michael Thomas, and Michael Thomas is going to sneak in points. So I don't know. It's like Scarano may not be dead just yet.
Yeah, I would think. I think it will be interesting. This week I'm playing him, and if he takes me down, which there's a good chance he might, he has a real good shot of making it.
I mean, it's loser goes home again almost for you 2 this week. I think if you lose, the person who loses this is almost done for the playoffs, unless they sneak in with some sort of miracle with points. And to be honest, it might kind of take that when you're down 70 with 2 weeks to go. So you got a lot riding on this evening.
Yeah, I mean, but like, go back 4 weeks, and we both looked dead in the water.
Yes, agreed.
So I mean, we're getting there.
I don't know. I think you're hanging in there. I think you both have a chance. I'm fascinated. I'll be watching this one closely. And like I said, I think you've got some interesting things going on tonight, man. You got Brissett going. By the way, Malcolm Brown on the waiver wire.
Yep.
And you've also got Mr. Fuller going. a former my team. I hope the stink rubs off on you hard.
I hope the fact that he's off your team just increases his value.
He already made a catch, so the answer is yes.
All right, let's move on to the next game, and this was an interesting one.
Okay.
Because this game was a lot closer, and there was a lot of back and forth going on with this game. But that was Casey losing to Michael Thomas, 85 to 107. These are both scores for both teams for the season.
Really?
I want to say so.
I know it is for Casey. I didn't know for Michael Thomas too.
I'd probably bet money that this was a low score for Michael Thomas for the season.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what fascinated me here was Casey was like, he was already trying to plot for points, and I want this and I want that. I do not believe he realized that ESPN's first tiebreaker is head-to-head and not points, because I think he thought he was into that playoff spot when he wasn't. I mean, he's still in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't in the way that he believed.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he threw the week, because he didn't. But no.
Yeah.
That's the last thing in the world he wanted. As the man who's trying to sneak in through points, putting up the low score of the week is not ideal.
No. And Connor looks like he's hurt again. Sanu looks like he's going to be out for a couple weeks.
Hill?
Is Hill out? I heard it was not serious, but
I don't know if it's serious, man. But when somebody goes into that chat and says it's all going to be fine, and 2 seconds later a man grabs his hamstring, the karma gods are back, buddy. It's good to see them.
So it'll be interesting. And then with Michael Thomas, his top three: Mahomes, Gurley, Jones had decent games. Eckler had a huge game.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone else on his team kind of didn't show up.
Yeah, he's got some reinforcements coming. I think Sanders will be back to normal this week after the injury. Devonta Parker looks like he might actually start to become something. Slayton has been a stud coming in, and I think he'll probably sit Brian Hill after that weak performance.
Yeah.
I'd actually be a little worried if I were Michael, because I just don't think Mahomes has looked the same. I think they kind of rushed him back.
Hasn't, and I don't know if that's because he hasn't had the work or
could be.
I don't think he's the same quarterback at all. Could this be a sophomore slump is the real question.
There he is.
I'm here. Could it be a sophomore slump? Kansas City is a funny team because, they're one of these teams that I hear that everyone says they could beat anyone. And you know what else I say? I think they could lose to anyone. Weak defense, it often puts Mahomes in positions where he has to throw the ball a lot. I think it somewhat leaves him vulnerable, and I do think they rushed him back. So I think it's going to leave him susceptible to further injury.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about too. And I think that last year they were able to sustain a little more because he was so superhuman. And the minute he becomes a little more mortal, the team isn't looking as good. And that kind of applies to Michael Thomas as well.
And do you think that it's also the fact that, and I'm not exactly sure, and I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I can tell you right now, they don't run the ball well.
Yeah.
And we think to ourselves, that's always a good thing with a quarterback, and especially a fantasy quarterback. But I actually like to think differently. Having that good running game is what allowed that offense to move the chains quite a bit.
Yeah, I'd be worried if I were Michael, though, from that perspective, with what's happened to Fournette. He started out so great and has had a couple weeks in a row where he's just not getting the touches anymore. They just don't seem to. I mean, he was 30, 20, 20 every week with carries, and now it's
he's on your do not draft list, isn't he, Jay?
Oh, I hate him. Oh, I just hate him.
I love it.
I don't know. Michael's just got a few guys who just don't look the same like they did in the beginning of the year. When he was rolling, he had Mahomes and he had Fournette, and I don't know. I still think he's got a great team. I still would put money on him making the playoffs, of course, and I think Tamala said his points look great, but that's a tough one. I don't know. Casey had an interesting karma week. I cannot wait to see what happens with him this week.
All right, let's move on to another matchup, and that was Jake beating Rachel 136 to 106.
Rachel, interestingly enough, even though she lost, did gain 20 points on Casey, but she had a real opportunity. If she puts up like a 130 and she picks up 50 points on him, that that's hearing somebody's footsteps behind you. But 106, she can't be happy with that.
No.
Especially with that coming with so many points from Prescott and the rest of her team, just awful.
The rest of her team was single digits except for Tucker. Awful.
Yeah. And she's dealing with a lot of injuries on one team. San Francisco does have a tough schedule coming up, but she will get her number one receiver back, which always helps.
Yeah,
and it's tough. It's tough. She has with Adams and Kittle both gone. If you put them in and replace them with some of the other guys here, who knows? Maybe she could be right up around Jake's. But as far as her getting those points, I don't know. It's going to be tough for her.
Yeah, it's a big win for Jake, though. We kind of left him for dead, and I think he's out via points. I don't think he's coming in that way. So he's kind of got the Scarano method of sneaking in. He's one game back.
I think mine is very, very distant, JT. I'm happy to not be in pizza.
No, I think you guys all have a chance. I think I said.
I thought I'm like 70 points out, JT.
I think you have a chance via wins, buddy. That's where I think you're not counting it. You're one game out. You're one game out. And
we'll see. 3 in a row.
And Joel's lost 4 in a row. So let's say that Joel and Michael both lose this week. Whoever wins out of you and Tamala ties for that spot. And then it goes to head-to-head. It's not points. The first tiebreaker is head-to-head. So if you have the head-to-head battle, let's say over Joel.
This is fascinating. It's fascinating race. I love it. Yes.
Not over. And Jake has that same path, as does Rachel. There's 4 teams sitting in that same spot. So I do not think Jake is dead. I think that win kept him alive. I think if he hadn't won, he'd be down there with me. And I think he'd be out of it. But I think The Walking Dead is rose again.
Fascinating.
Right. And this brings us to our final matchup. And I get by Colin with a 109 to a 94.
And I think it saved your season, Tamala. At least kept it alive.
Kelsey, he had me nervous there for a little while.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
not sounding
Deshaun Watson. I really, and I mentioned it to JT. I was hot on Houston in that game. I was hot on Houston with points as far as, side bets and stuff like that were concerned. I just couldn't believe that, Watson had such a poor performance there. I mean, Baltimore right now has to be the hottest team in the NFL.
And then getting a 0 from Howard after the big week last week.
Yeah, it's tough. They're just so Jameis Winston has to be the most inconsistent quarterback ever. He doesn't just do this to Howard. He does this to many a receiver.
Tamala, I know it didn't end up becoming the winner, but it would have been fascinating if you would have won on that San Francisco clown shoes ending of a play.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to say,
if you go back and look at that, man, the lineman that did that last lateral was down. And the game should have been over. And I mean, that's, 8 points for you right there?
Yeah.
And for a while until Kelsey was pulling it together at the end, I thought that was going to be the difference. And I would, if I were Colin, I'd be pretty ticked at that.
But it's funny because, I mean, San Francisco has a good defense. They've played great, except against Arizona. I mean, I'll take the 14 points. That's a great score.
Yeah,
but
right.
It is one of these
going and how they've put up with it.
You know what it is? I heard something interesting about San Francisco's defense, and it's just this. If they have a pocket quarterback who you're playing against, they could pin their ears back, go at you, and you can't stop them. But the minute that quarterback can move around, they struggle. They struggle against Russell Wilson. They struggle against Murray twice.
Yeah.
The minute he's mobile, the minute they can't pin their ears back and they have to think about it, they don't play as well.
Yeah. It almost cost me, Tamala, because I was thinking I should have been thinking along those same lines you just mentioned. I benched Murray, and he had a really good game.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, so that's an interesting one. I don't think it takes Colin into a horrible place. I think he's pretty safe. I think it would have to be fairly catastrophic for him to not make the playoffs. He's third in points, so I can't envision a scenario where he's not in. I think Brian, Angela, and Colin are pretty solid in there. I think Michael Thomas is pretty solid in there. And then the rest is a real toss-up.
Yeah, so let's look at. So I play Scarano, and we've already talked about how that's kind of going to be loser goes home.
Yeah, and I've been playing and messing and overcoaching my team every day. If you haven't noticed,
the winner might not go anywhere, but they at least have a chance. Moving on, Michael Thomas has Angela.
I think that game is the least consequential. It might be helping for seeding, but I think they're both in.
Yep. Joelle gets Rich.
I think that's huge.
He could be a big major spoiler.
She needs a win. If she gets a win, that really hurts all the teams that are one game back.
Yes.
Yep.
Rich could really play spoiler here, man.
Rich could absolutely play spoiler.
Jake has Brian.
I think that's a really tough hit for Jake. He needs a win or he's done. He's not getting in via points, and he's going against the number one team, scoring the number one amount of points.
All right. And
they're projected to beat him pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
JT, you are absolutely destroyed with buys this week.
It wasn't great. I'll be honest. I had this plan in my head where I was going to be like, I don't know, maybe like, let's say 8-3 at this point. And then I was going to maybe be doing a little better. And the bye wouldn't have hurt me.
Do you know I've heard a lot of people say that they prefer, and it's certainly open for some debate, but I've heard some people say in a league where things are tight that they actually just prefer it what you did.
I do. I really do. I don't want to dink and dunk it. I'd like as many as possible.
I'm getting dinked and dunked, and every week, especially maybe our league is slightly different with the idea that you could go into the playoffs for points, but in a situation where it's just straight wins, this might be the way to go.
Yeah. I would argue. I don't know if anyone has ever picked up 4 guys off waivers. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 guys off waivers and played them in the same week.
It might be a record.
Yeah, not sure I want that one, but I believe I have it.
All right, and that leaves Casey taking on Colin.
Just real quick, Rachel needs the win over me. Talking an incredible amount of junk, but if she loses, she's out.
Okay.
Is there anyone on my bench you want to trade for?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, at this point, I was maybe gonna not go hard, but now 5 waiver wire guys, let's go.
Willing to make some drops just because of some smack.
There we go.
Love it.
What was the last one, Tamala?
Casey against Colin.
I don't think the winner outcome of this matters as much. A little bit. I think Colin wants to keep his spot. I think Casey needs to show that he can score again. He's got Hines playing tonight. He's got Lockett coming back for him.
Connor is still out, right?
Yeah, but he has Tyreek Hill on a bye, Kenyon Drake on a bye, Christian Kirk on a bye, Sanu hurt, his kicker's out, Connor's out. I mean, this is not going the way Casey would have liked it.
I love it. He says he's still making the playoffs, by the way. He says this at school like every day to me.
I'm not sure he's wrong, but I just really enjoy seeing the karma monster.
He's talking smack to everyone, just to make it clear.
The shadow of the karma monster is looming.
Yeah. I got off with a first round bye. So
what's that?
I got in the playoffs last year with a first round bye, and just.
It's true. I did hear this though, Tamala, that something to the extent of 70% of Super Bowls are won by teams who have a first round bye. That it really does make that big of a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to clarify for anybody that happens to be listening, I know Casey was asking, and understandably so, because it is so new and there's a lot of changes that were made. The 6 teams that do not make the playoffs still do have their own little version of a fun side consolation bracket happening. Mm-hmm. Those 6 teams will all contribute $5 to a pot, and they will play in the ESPN style of the consolation, where everybody's got a game until there's only a couple teams left. And it allows you to have a game every week. And the only time it will not matter is when the 11 is playing the 12, or in that last week when you're not either the 11 or the 12 or the.
So what you're saying is you've already lost then.
Yeah, everybody's got at least a first round playoff game, and everybody will at least, it looks like, have mostly a second round playoff game. By the time we get to the third round, it will be maybe somebody playing to win $30, really 25.
Just for JT, this is just for my own clarification. So it does this simply take the top half then?
What do you mean?
This was discussed, wasn't it? Well, we're going to be. That's all just going to be straight head to head.
Yes.
Yes.
It's seeded, and it's the head to head of the 6 teams who do not make the playoffs.
Didn't we discuss something like the hop half stay in, and I don't know. It's cool.
No, I don't know if we ever got anything further than where we were with that. I mean, this is a big addition, and it may be something that people like or don't like. Some people might be frustrated at the idea of having to add in $5 more. Personally, I like the idea of being able to win a little something and get some of my money back. I also like
frustrating. Come on, we've bet on stupider things than that.
Oh, absolutely. The way I look at it is, if I'm in actual last place, I'm especially wanting to try. Like Rich and I really want to win this because it would pay for a chunk of the pizza for next year.
Love it.
But the real anti-prize, if you will, is if you lose that, you are the one who is responsible for engraving the trophy. So you could potentially be a pizza buying, trophy engraving, miserable human.
That could be you.
It could be any one of us. I want to clarify.
So regular season loser pays for pizza. Consolation bracket loser pays for engraving.
That is correct.
The bottom two, though. The bottom two pay for pizza for season.
Just bottom one is trophy. So
okay, so every team plays someone else then, right? When the round goes, how do we determine who's the very bottom for engraving trophy?
There will be a consolation bracket final game of the last 2 teams playing that have lost both their first rounds of playoffs.
Oh, I understand now. Okay, thank you for. I understand. It's explained better to me.
And just to clarify, my favorite situation right now, my favorite situation is, I would like to let you know that Casey, by losing last week with his Mr. I'm going to lose on purpose, he is now tied with me for wins. So if that man happens to not make the playoffs
via points,
there is a chance he will be purchasing pizza.
We've done the math here, Casey. You heard us.
That's right.
Now, I have a question about the trophy engraving.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a place where to get that done? Because I can see Sagarano taking
a lot
it
of places.
to,
I actually had to do it for the league.
It's gotta be me.
Yeah, you're taking it somewhere down in Shawtown and paying a guy of a friend of a friend.
I do often have situations like that.
Listen, I had to do it for another league. It cost $9.
Okay.
It's not expensive.
I know it's not expensive. I'm talking
an engraving place in Lillington.
The place where it's getting done. Like,
yeah, I'd like to think that our league is reputable enough, other than Casey.
I know some guys that.
Tamala, are you keeping track of the game so far?
Following a little bit. Why, did something just happen?
No, it's been very, very dull. I'm just gonna go up and watch a little bit myself, but I just know it's a big one for you, both of you guys. Scarano, you're going against the ultimate trade man, Mr. Brissett, and you're going against the other ultimate trade man, Mr. Fuller. Tamala's playing 2 traded players tonight.
This is interesting. We'll see how it goes. I don't have anyone going tonight in this league. I did play T.Y. Hilton in a league where I have a couple buys and it's a little bit tight. So we'll see.
No catches for him just yet.
No, nothing. I know. I have an eye on it.
I played.
Well, I hope he scores 3 touchdowns tonight. That would be great.
I know Brissett would get it on reverses.
Williams, he's got a 4. That may be 4 more points than I expected.
Okay. So Brissett isn't lighting it up right now, and I mean it's about to be the end of the first. Look, that's all I can hope for.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Russell Wilson against the Eagles, which I also think kind of makes it bad for you, Tamal.
Yeah, that's going to be a bad. At least they moved it to the 1:00 game from the Sunday night.
Oh,
that makes it better.
That
makes it better, right?
Yeah, it does.
So, like a game in Mexico City, that's bad, right?
Oh, all right.
All right, guys.
We'll check back in next week. I think next week will be even more fascinating when we're looking at a little clearer playoff picture and a lot more scenarios where we can kind of game it out. But till then, good luck. You two still have a shot.
See you next week, fellas.
Have a good night.
Later.
See you guys.